Hi there, the bipolar lesbian here, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I've looked up an article regarding bipolar disorder. I decided that touching on one that is a little crazier, the better. And so we're going to go over this article that I found and discuss it in depth. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be reading it to you guys, and then I'm going to come back and cover it and touch points on what I think are absolutely ridiculous in the article. So here we go, and hope I don't stammer too much through reading this article. This is the article in question that I found, and it's called "To Make Adolescence Permanent, Just Label It Bipolar Disorder" by Lawrence Kelmanson, MD, which is a scary thought as this article goes on. So let's begin. Moodiness and temper outbursts are fairly common traits during adolescence, since it's a stressful phase due to social relationship pressure, rebellion, separation from parents, changing bodies, and worries about the future. In the 1990s, the criteria for bipolar disorder were greatly expanded. This enabled teens' moods and outbursts to instead be seen as symptoms of illness. These traits may be exaggerated if teens take stimulants for ADHD, which by this age agitate instead of calm, as can antidepressants. Stimulants have been given to soldiers to arouse agitation, notably the Nazis. They are addictive, so legal and illicit users get depressed upon crashing or withdrawing, and thus suicide 10 times as often. Sorry, this article's a bit wonky written, if I say so myself. Or maybe it's just me and I'm using that as an excuse. Anyway, I continue. Psychiatry labeling normal teens as bipolar along with rampantly giving them speed, just as Hitler did with his army, explains our 40-fold youth bipolar rate increase. Of course, we bring up Hitler. That always has to be brought up, doesn't it? Once they're labeled bipolar, teens are less likely to learn how to responsibly manage their wild, aggressive urges. As follows: when parents accept the bipolar label, something seems to click in their minds, and it's this instant that their kids' lives is forever ruined. Until this aha moment, they believed their kid was capable of maturing, and that raising kids is hard work. But now they retrospectively view all that turmoil that began in puberty as due to permanent brain illness rather than normal, outgrowable adolescent issues. So they give up and greatly reduce the expectations, demands, and discipline that are needed to help kids learn and mature coping tools and other abilities. Bipolar kids' tantrums, verbal abuse, and harmful actions are excused since they are supposedly not their fault, but just illness symptoms. Parents say their meds stopped working, their bipolar acted up, or they missed a dose, with no risk of consequence like parental punishment, eviction from their home, or police arrest. They won't need to learn to act civilly. Rather than set limits, schools make accommodations that ease workload and allow tantrums, again removing any need to learn self-control. Even if hospitalized for violence, the experience may be so supportive, friendly, and cushy that teenagers find it more rewarding than punishing. As somebody who's been not only in school with bipolar disorder untreated and in psych wards with untreated bipolar disorder, never once have I seen myself or any other person allowed to act violent or anything like that without a punishment or something like that. They're never allowed to just freely go about being harmful to other students or teachers. And I think that is absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, I will be going over this article more in the video, but however, I just want to touch on this. I can't believe that they're actually suggesting that violence that maybe kids may present, regardless of their diagnosis, bipolar or not, is actually tolerated or given a free pass because of an illness. It's not. I have never seen it. I surely was not allowed to get away with acting like a total piece of shit just because I was bipolar. And I also wasn't allowed to hurt other people. And I've seen other people in my psych wards that I've been in, or even at other therapy groups I've been in, who are violent, and it's never been allowed. They've always been removed and made sure they're away from the group so they're not hurting people. So that right there is completely ridiculous. And as this goes on, you can see that this is maybe more about his irritation at kids being labeled ADHD early than it is bipolar disorder. It seems to be a hard stance on ADHD medication causing all these problems, and acting like parents don't set limits for their children or anything like that. I'm not saying that all parents do, because nowadays it does seem like some kids are allowed to do whatever they want freely without their parents making them listen. However, it is not like that. They're not allowed to fight. They're not allowed to hurt people. We have laws. We have limits in our society. We have, morals and things like that. That social morals that we need to follow in society. And if we break those, it is not good for anybody. And you are punished for it. Excuse me, I have a little touch of pneumonia at the moment. Okay, so moving on away from that, which this is absurd about violence, especially since, once again, there's a stigma that bipolar disorder equals violence. So society gives their innate wildness free rein. It fails to instill a conscience. There's nothing to feel guilty about anyway. It's just their chemistry was off. It's thus expectable that once labeled bipolar, they'll thereafter seek instant satisfaction of urges whenever they're in the mood, having learned that they don't need to wait or obey rules. This cultivates the bipolar potential that is in us all. Yes, I start acting like a spoiled 3-year-old child, and I push people out of the front of the line and get in line because my chemicals are off. And I know that I can get away with anything because I'm bipolar disorder. And, I just go around punching people randomly because my chemistry is off as well. I mean, how ridiculous is this? Like I said, I'm going into it more later. But, are you kidding me here? And, of course, there's also going to be something else in this article that is, not surprising to hear about. So let's continue. And when they're told that they have brain diseases that limit their ability to control themselves, this holds them back from trying. They think it's pointless to try and learn mature ways to manage conflict, frustration, or stress, since such efforts would be futile. They learn to be helpless. Their only skill they do learn is how to take drugs and passively let them do the coping. Responsibility now falls on MDs to cure them by sedating away their mood temper. The drugs impair kids' abilities to learn mature coping tools anyway, as well as impairing any academic, athletic, or creative abilities. Once again, how absolutely ridiculous. Most psychiatrists that I've been to haven't wanted to keep me on a benzodiazepine or anything that will dampen my mood because they don't want my body to rely on needing a pill for coping with my stress and anxiety that is part of my bipolar disorder. I have never met a doctor that would recommend pills over treatment like walking more or breathing exercises or coloring or just any coping skill basically that you've heard about. Yoga, sports, whatever you're into. MDs are not just there to stick a needle in us and sedate us all and go on with their days. They want us to get better so they don't have to do that. And nowadays they would get in trouble with the DEA if that's how they handled this. And it's not like this article was written way back when. This was a 2018 article if you saw at the beginning. I believe it said January 18th of this year. So it's not like this is from years ago and they're acting like, it's all everyone being doped up, free range, free pills for everyone, make you feel better, just make you into this lump of nothing, which is another, stigma that medication with bipolar disorder has, is that it will turn you into a lump or a sedated zombie that has no brain thought or actions or wants to do anything, which is completely ridiculous and pathetic that they would try to tell someone that is genuinely sick that if they try to get help for it, that they're gonna be a zombie brainless fool. I mean, how dare you? I mean, these people are trying to get better. We're just trying to make ourselves feel better so we don't feel like shit every day. I don't understand why you would say that it, takes away our academic, athletic, or creative abilities. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, before being on the correct dose of medication, I could have never thought about putting myself out there to talk about, to start a YouTube account, to even show my face. I mean, my goodness, I wasn't in the mood for that. I was a depressed mess. I was a hypomanic, scary monster even to myself, and that's absolutely ridiculous. Since I've gotten on the medication, my academic career has taken off again. My working career has taken off again. Athletically, I would say that at least I'm going to the gym now. I'm not involved in sports personally, but I'm working out. That's a good thing. I'm trying to use that as a stress coping, procedure. Like, none of the sedating medications that these doctors seem to just hand out in his mind. And again, this guy's an MD. Really, has he ever practiced in his field or dealt with this at all? Because if he was in this field, he'd realize that doctors don't want to fall back on sedating a patient. They want to find a way for the patient to snap themselves out of the moment or out of that stress-fueled episode that they may be having. And as for creative abilities, I enjoy writing. I write just fun fictional stories, and since being on the medication, that has also come back. I've actually gained my ability to write a cute, funny story again, and I'm not completely in despair or apathetic towards any hobbies or activity I like doing. So, as for creative abilities, mine have actually come back, so I don't know where this guy gets off on talking about it. So, let me continue. The bipolar label also promotes seeing painful feelings as due to chemical imbalance. Bad moods used to be seen as signs that something's bothering them that they may actively work on in order to feel better. If they were really upset, that just meant a big issue was really troubling them. Parents used to react to kids' emotional cues by asking them what they're upset about, listening and understanding their issues, and giving advice. Such helpful responses were vital to their social and emotional growth. Kids got in touch with, vented about, and resolved issues, and formed close relationships in the process. But psychiatry has proclaimed this approach is wrong. Unpleasant feelings are no longer adaptive tools that aid in survival, as Charles Darwin deduced. They have been declared to be treatable diseases. This discourages the active addressing of kids' issues via meaningful social interaction. So when they're struggling to transition from childhood to adulthood and thus need the most listening and understanding, they get the least. Once again, how dare this man? I don't understand what he's talking about unless you are being raised with shit parents. Most of you are probably on medication, thinking about getting on medication, or hopefully seeing a therapist. And I don't understand how you can say that they're not being taught how to deal with their emotional cues or anything, or talk about what they're upset about and understanding the issues behind their emotions. No, they're not. We are taught about this. We are taught that all of our emotions, all of our feelings can lead back to our emotions, and it's very powerful how much we place on them. I mean, if we're in a bad mood and, we feel like, you know, everything's going to be wrong, then probably you're not going to have a good day. I mean, however, if you are lucky enough, like I said, to have good, responsible guardians who are helping you out with this, you know that therapy teaches you that this is a way you can resolve this issue. This is a way you can function. This is a way you can change maybe this thought process. And I don't understand how he can bring up Charles Darwin in this, because really, I mean, unpleasant feelings are no longer adaptive tools. You mean like maybe that heart-pounding feeling we get when something may be wrong, that's not a good tool to have? Maybe the hairs that stick up on the back of your neck, that's not something that we listen to or try to we just try to rid ourselves of that. We don't listen to it any longer. I mean, are you kidding me? No, of course not. I mean, yes, it is a treatable disease. However, we don't stop kids from meaningful social interaction. In fact, if our kids seem to be developing problems, we encourage it more if we're doing it the right way, because we know that a kid that has an illness is going to have a very, very hard time with perhaps speaking to people or making friends or whatever it may be. Maybe they don't. But regardless, when they're young, we try to get them out there with other kids so they're not alone. We don't want that for our children. We want the best for them. So I think this is just ridiculous, and it's blaming doctors and parents both for something that we aren't doing to our children. So this is an especially big waste of opportunity for teenagers, since their brains are at peak learning capacity. They're flexible enough to be guided to learn a new coping style, since their personalities are not firmly set yet. And adolescence is when facing issues is the most crucial, since it's when most kids must learn the tools needed for social job success as adults. But rather than learn to cope with the issues that cause their moods, they learn to cope with the moods themselves by accepting their illness and taking mind-numbing meds, and needlessly giving up on social issues or solving issues or achieving goals. Oh yes, I know that's true completely, because since I've been on the right meds, I've gotten a job, set up my social circle to be a little more expanded, and actually have spoken to people that I haven't spoken to in years, since I'm not depressed off my fucking mind, out of my mind. No. What I am is on mind-numbing medication that's making me just a stupid idiot that can't do anything in their life. I mean, how ridiculous. I mean, really? I mean, it's insulting to read that. It's insulting, and another stigma about the medication that you're just going to be a zombie, it's mind-numbing, blah, 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 blah. I mean, screw you. I haven't turned into a zombie. It's helped me in my life. It hasn't made me worse. Adolescence used to be seen as a challenging but normal and transient phase that had to be navigated successfully to pave the way for adult success, but it's instead being transformed into a permanent, disabling bipolar disorder and a self-fulfilling prophecy, and giving kids speed for ADHD, which the DSM admits can induce bipolar, and then sedatives for bipolar that shut their brains off facilitates this process. Most bipolar teens had in fact previously been prescribed stimulants. I never had. Psychiatry parasitically profits from its permanent child processing plants. Little bit of alliteration there, maybe? A little too much P's. Its bipolar creations usually become lifelong clients, so maturation prevention is good business. As in ADHD, pediatric bipolar intervention is example of the irresponsible promotion of irresponsibility. So I suggest merging ADHD and bipolar into one term that reflects their common cause, psychiatric labeling induced maturational disorder, PLIMD, with a type 1 distractible impulsive and a type 2 moody explosive. So basically ignoring the ADHD and calling it bipolar 1 disorder. Parents, don't entrust your kids to a field that electrocutes and lobotomizes people. Don't speed them up, shut them up, or give up on them maturing. Patiently talk with them and raise them instead, unless you want them to become permanent adolescents. I mean, so that's the article. Like I said, I'm going to be discussing this a little bit as I have been ranting in this already. But, I mean, my God, I can't even begin to start on how wrong this article is and how stupid and how putting the blame on the parents for having a child that has a mood disorder. I mean, you can't, fully, expect the outcome of your genetics yet. You're not going to know if your kid's going to be sick or have an issue or something like that. So, I mean, it's not the parents' fault that their kid has an issue. And like it said, and like I, joked about, being prescribed with, speed, as he calls ADHD drugs. I mean, I know some technically can be considered amphetamines, but at the same time, most of the time, it's for kids that genuinely need it for their issues. I know that sometimes it can be overdiagnosed or seeming to be overdiagnosed. I mean, just because a kid won't sit still or is bored in class, we label them ADHD and put them on meds. But I don't look at things that way because I don't think about them that way. I mean, I think that's completely ridiculous, and I don't even know how to really explain it besides completely stupid and completely wrong. I mean, I was never myself put on I was a straight A student myself, suffering way back as early as I can remember, at least from depression. I know you can't be labeled as bipolar early, but I was labeled depressed. Youngest that I started seeing a therapist was 9. So I understand what it's like to be completely miserable, but I still was able to maintain an straight A 4.0 average grade. I don't understand how you can say that these kids are not going to be academically successful. I sure was. I was in the National Honor Society, the Junior Honor Society, in many different groups. My teachers enjoyed me, at least for how they acted. And it wasn't a challenge, at least in my experience, academically, trying to do something. I mean, instead it was something that is, I look back and go, I did a very good job. And unfortunately, the illness just messed it up along the way. So, yeah, I don't understand that. And I don't understand how this person can say that people are not going to grow up if they're diagnosed with bipolar disorder, or their parents are always going to make excuses for them or something like that. That's absolutely ridiculous. And like I said, I'm going to cover this more, but this is absolutely absolute crap in my opinion. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He is a doctor that I would never and trust. And if I ever found out my doctor thought in any way like this, I would drop them like a hot potato. And so, yeah, so I'm going to discuss this a little bit more, as I said, in my other side of the video, but this is just the article for now. Thank you for putting up with me stammering through it. So, here we go to discuss it a little bit more. Hey there, the bipolar lesbian here, and I just wanted to end this video by saying it went a little longer than expected, so I'm actually going to be making a part 2 for this video to go in a little more in depth on the article. I'm going to go back to it and cover a little more talking points. I think that going through it like that is going to be the best and keep me a little more focused than I can be, because I tend to do tangents very easily, just like right now. I rambling on over nothing, but anyway, I digress and joke. Thank you for watching this video, and like I said, part 2 will be coming up, and hope you're expecting that, and hope you're looking forward to it. This has been the Bipolar Lesbian, and see you next time.